Here are 4 amateur crayfish keeping habits that you should stop doing immediately. Let's get into it. Bad habit number 1 is not quarantining your crayfish, especially if you've just got a sick crayfish or a new crayfish from somewhere else. You definitely don't want to contaminate your other crayfish or animals in another tank by just putting your crayfish straight in. So, if your crayfish is new or sick, you should definitely put it in its own quarantine tank. Make sure that the quarantine tank has also been cycled and it's perfectly sterile and safe for your crayfish. Just let it rest there for a few days, and if your crayfish is sick in the meantime, you can treat it there as well. Just make sure to separate it from other animals or crayfish or fish or plants in your other tanks, because you don't want to spread diseases, pests and sickness and bad bacteria and all that sort of stuff. You should let your crayfish, especially if it's new, like if you've just bought it from a pet store or a breeder or something and it's from a different environment, you should definitely let it be quarantined for a while before you put it and join your other animals or anything, snails, plants, everything. You should definitely make sure that your crayfish has been quarantined. Bad habit number 2 is overcrowding. Crayfish do not like to share tanks, and they can get aggressive very, very easily. This is why I try to avoid keeping lots of crayfish together or just putting crayfish together in a small tank. I mean, unless I was breeding them in a really big tank, or I've just got lots and lots of room in a normal tank and I think I can fit like 1 or 2 small juveniles, that's the only time I'd really put them together. Crayfish just like having their own space and they don't like to share it with other crayfish. So they will get very aggressive towards fish, crayfish and some other stuff. And I know I said before you should quarantine them for if you're putting them in your main tank or whatever, but when I said that, I definitely mean not overcrowding at the same time. Because crayfish don't do very well with each other, I'd recommend checking out my video on tank mates for fish or other animals, so your crayfish can go a little bit more peacefully with these other animals as long as they're not overcrowded, like I said before. Bad habit number 3 is overfeeding, and this one is really easy to do, and even I do it every once in a while. Your crayfish can eat almost anything, so it's quite easy to just put in leftover food or any kind of fish food or whatever that you have into your fish tank or crayfish tank, thinking that your crayfish will maybe or might not eat it, and just giving it more and more. And it's just quite easy to just feed your crayfish a really large amount without thinking about it twice. But what you don't think about is that your crayfish can eat like a lot of things, including fish food and plants and everything. So if you keep putting so much stuff in its tank, it will just have so much food to eat. And when a crayfish eats way too much in one go, it's not good for its health. Also, if you put way too much food in your tank will get dirty really, really quickly, so you'll be forced to clean your tank even more if you don't want your crayfish to get even more sick. Your crayfish definitely shouldn't be overeating, and it's one of the worst things that your crayfish can do because they can eat almost everything. So just try to limit the amount of food that's in your tank in the first place. You might notice that your crayfish doesn't want to eat in front of you, and that's normal for some crayfish. Some crayfish simply get shy and just don't like to eat in front of their owners. That's okay, just leave it there and go away, and your crayfish will eventually start eating that food. And in bad habit number 4, we have not cleaning your tank. But wait, before you click off the video, I just want you to listen a little bit closer to this last one. I have to admit that I used to not clean my tank very often, and it's quite easy to just leave your tank there and just assume it will get better. And for some people, they have kept tanks which have had the same water for years and years and years. But you have to remember that these guys normally have been keeping crayfish or fish for a very long time, and they definitely know what they're doing. And it's not really out of negligence, they just think that the water and the bacteria in there is perfect with plants and animals and food, and the whole ecosystem is perfect. But if you don't really know what you're doing, or you're kind of new to this sort of stuff, I would not recommend trying to use the same water for years and years and years. Like, the most easy and normal thing to do to prevent your crayfish getting sick, or your other animals getting sick, or your tank just smelling and looking disgusting, is just to clean your tank, change this water, and all that sort of stuff. I've been told that your crayfish and fish prefer it when you have lots of little water changes like pretty recently and close together, rather than one really big water change or clean like over a long period. And that kind of makes sense if you think about it. So if you get the opportunity, you should definitely try and clean your tank a little bit more, because there are a bunch of great benefits for your crayfish, and your crayfish will definitely feel a lot more comfortable. I believe another really overlooked part of crayfish keeping is not cycling your tank as well. You should definitely try and cycle your tank before you put new animals or crayfish in and the tank's been empty, because it just helps the healthy bacteria and all the stuff that should be there start growing beforehand, and it's just better for your tank. If you guys have literally any questions, crayfish related or crustacean related or fish tank related, just put them in the comments and I'll definitely get to them. So, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe.